Welcome to the Red V TV Instant Fan Reaction, supported by A-Star Recruitment for the 2021 season, as we reflect on Saints' 26 points to 18 victory over the Leeds Rhinos in the third round of the Betfred Challenge Cup. I'm joined by Peter Elder. Peter, first of all, happy man today. Motherwell get the win. Saints get the win. Sporting days can't get any better for you.
Well, indeed, considering that we were playing St Mirren, that the right Saints won and the right Saints lost. So I was always worried that either both would win or both would lose. So, no, I'm absolutely delighted. Made it both Motherwell and Saints made heavy weather of it. But at the end of the day, a win is a win, especially from our own point of view in a cup tie. It's just purely about getting over the line, literally.
Well, that's it. I was going to say it's the poorest performance probably since Cass away last year, before the lockdown happened and before we restarted. But it doesn't matter in the cup, does it? All that matters is being in the next round.
Well, listen, you're exactly right. I mean, it's we started off like a house on fire with a brilliant opening try. Perhaps everyone, not just the fans but the players, thought, this is going to be an absolute walk in the park. But Leeds turned it into a dogfight. They went up the middle because their half-backs were second rows, which meant their kicking game wasn't good enough. We should have capitalised more on that in terms of restricting their metres and giving us more free, easy ball. But we got into their level. We got a bit sloppy, gave away a few penalties, a few 6 against, some of which were perhaps a little bit generous from Mr. Thaler. We might discuss him in a little bit more detail. I think it's always best to bag a referee after you win, because then you can say, look, it's not sour grapes. But listen, we caused more problems to ourselves than he did. It was our own sloppiness and clunkiness in attack, particularly in the first half. But not a great performance, but we got the win, and that's all that matters.
It does. That's it. As you say, there were a lot of errors. Leeds were terrier-like in their defence. I mean, I think after that first try, as you say, did we become a little complacent, or was it just composure, flatness? I mean, what would you put that down to?
A little bit of both, I think. I think we were too eager to get the ball wide. We've seen it work once, but obviously we've got to earn the right to do that. Leeds were very quick up in defence as well. We've got to give them credit. They worked like Trojans. They were like greyhounds, really, really fast in attack. Maybe a little bit offside, who knows? But then all teams try and get an extra couple of meters, couple of yards ahead. But credit to them for their defence. But I think we should have been a little bit more composed. And again, noticed that their kicking game was non-existent. You've seen 3 or 4 go dead in the first half alone, and the last. And even when they tried like a big bomb, it was be it Tommy, Lachlan, Regan, every one of them had acres of space and so much time to pouch the ball and then make some meters. I think we just need to calm down and do the simple things. I mean, again, you've got to credit Leeds with a lot of injuries. I'm surprised the BBC never mentioned Leeds were down in numbers. But fair play to them. They did what they did, and I think they actually improved more in the second half when we put the cue in the rack, if I can use a Steve-oism, especially when Brad Dwyer come on. I mean, he was superb for them. In fairness, he kind of hounded our guys when they had the ball, and he took it and basically did 2 tries all on his own, and made it a bit of a nervy finish.
Well, that's it. That first half, as you say, it was a bit of a dog's dinner. Bit of mitigation there as well. I mean, Matty Lees goes off injured. Sione Matautia, we lose him after he fails his head test, which means obviously he's missing for next week as well, because we play on Friday. Protocols mean that he won't play. We had a long period with 15 players. Does that's going to obviously kind of reflect in our performance. You've got to put that into that a mitigating factor, haven't you? You can't just ignore that and turn around and say that, we were absolutely terrible, when we're probably looking at game management over a full 80 minutes, having 1 forward and 1 back on the bench.
Well, that's it. Notice Robes didn't come off until the last, 13, 14 minutes, and Lewis Dodd come on, so effectively we're working with only 1 interchange. So, I mean, that has to be a factor, especially the early injuries, which I think unsettled us quite a bit. And Leeds took advantage in terms of playing it simple, just putting us under pressure. But we should have, I think, reacted better to that. I felt we still tried to push the envelope and tried offloads when it wasn't really on.
Yeah.
But I have to say, we've not mentioned the man thus far. We're a few minutes in. I mean, Iggy Paasi, my goodness me. I mean, we've seen forwards come over from Australia before, like Josh Perry and a guy we got from Salford, Lea Lamatazi, who, in terms of like how they go, their bark was worse than their bite. They made a lot of noise but didn't really do much. Whereas Iggy, my goodness, what an absolute beast. That first carry, I mean, that boy, I'll not know if it's New York or New Year. I'm glad he's all right, which is the important thing, but goodness me. I mean, and then from then on in, I think he only had one mistake carrying the ball where he tried an offload that wasn't on. What a performance. Absolutely magnificent. And he set the example. I think other players started to learn from that. Run hard, run fast, run straight, run with aggression. And he set the tone. And I think he was as responsible as anyone else for the victory.
Yeah, that's it. As you say, he put us on the front foot. It's good to see that King Vuniyawa was able to leave the field under his own steam, and obviously he failed his head test, which then kind of levels things up a little bit. Going on to individual performances, there was a lot of talk on social media about should Coote start. I know Christian Wolf said earlier in the week that he was going to. Started off a little bit rusty, but it's a chance for him to get match fit. And I think most fans on seeing the Leeds team sheet would have probably turned around and said, yeah, this is a good chance for him to get match fit. You're not really expecting someone who's not played since the grand final to hit the ground running. And if they do, you're very, very lucky, aren't you?
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, he had to get some game time at some point. I was perhaps a little bit nervous thinking back to previous cup ties where we brought players back in after the first game of the season, or as has been in other seasons, the first game in a number of weeks, and it's bit us in the backside because, it's a cup tie, it's a knockout. It's not like a league match where you maybe drop some points, but you can gain a couple of points further down the line and make it up. But yeah, it was a wee bit rusty to start with, expectedly, but it kept it simple by and large. One bad pass out to Tommy towards the end of the first half. But he'll gradually grow into the Lachlan Coote that we all know. I mean, he's a cracking player, and I think his presence certainly improves us as a team. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, Wakefield and Friday, and expect he'll get run out then. Perhaps Percy will as well. Obviously, we'll be without at least a couple, from today as well, which might mean that Joe Batchelor gets another run out next week as well. But he played okay. He's going to improve, as you say, once he gets more minutes in his legs. This is a good hit out for him today. And, we know what he can do. He's absolutely class. We're a better team with him in the team. There's no question of that. And the difficulty is going to be when you look at Jack Wells' performance and that assist for Regan's first try. If Percy's fit on Friday night, it's like, well, what do you do? How can you leave Jack Wells be out? Do you put him at the other centre and give your namesake Mr. Nagama Friday night off? Do you do that, or do you say, right, Jack, have the week off and maybe come back in again? But because you can't drop Jack Wellsby in his form, but it's a great problem that Christian's got, having all these guys to potentially bring back in.
Yeah, you'd rather have that headache of who you're going to fit into the team rather than, we've not got anybody to play in them positions. Now, you've touched on it previously. Discipline for Saints today. Listen, I try and err on the side of, if you put yourself in the position to make the referee give a decision, or put yourself in that place where he can give a decision, then that's your own fault, really. We kept on giving away 6 agains, whether some were generous from Mr. Thaler or not. I will not be the judge on that. I'll allow you to speak on it. But is it a concern of yours that we keep on getting pinged? Is there anything we could do better to kind of clean our game up on that side of things?
It's a tricky one because perhaps you get a reputation of being a team that really tries to slow the ball down, slow to get off. But then again, you see other teams doing the same thing, and you try and, it'd be an interesting thing to try and do in time, play the balls, because I was sure that Leeds were getting a lot more time to lie on compared with us, and you felt that he was shouting, tackle complete, if you like, quicker, and when it was us making the tackles. But it's maybe splitting hairs, as you say. It's an easy one to sit in your armchair and with a biased head on and make that call. But I think certainly the first 20 minutes or so, it seemed to be not that, and we've seen this with Ben Thaler before. I think he was ref at the Saints Wigan when it was the Wigan Kids last year. Almost like, right, let's not make this an absolute hammering of embarrassing proportions. But it seemed to even out, I think, towards the end of the game in terms of penalties, 6 agains. I don't think there'll be much in it, but sometimes you're like, come on. I think we've got a good enough defence that we can perhaps absorb 6 agains and penalties to a degree, but you've seen it today, a Leeds team without any generals directing play, had us with a couple of minutes to go, sweating on our progress in the Challenge Cup. And I think you need to you talk about in rugby union like a scrum, you talk about giving the referee a painting a good picture in terms of like how you're binding and when you're pushing and all the rest of it. And I think we need to give the referee a better picture at the play the ball in terms of like getting the arms away quick, and looking up and just checking with him, that you're doing what he says. Because then he's more inclined to give you that extra half second if you display that you are trying to work with him.
A bit more smart play, you'd say.
Yes, absolutely.
That's it. A word, before we move on, a word on Leeds today as well. Listen, they give us a bit of a dog's life over the years. They've properly kind of in playoff games, in grand finals that we don't want to think about. They've kind of had the hex over us, haven't they? Your thoughts on their performance today? Because obviously they were without so many players. They acquitted themselves well, though, and took advantage of Saints being off the boil.
Yeah, I think so. And John Wilkin mentioned it in the BBC as well. They've talked about previous Leeds and Saints games and showed those grand finals. And, you could see the torture in the man's face, having been through them all. And we've all been there. We've been at those games at Old Trafford. But in terms of today, Leeds, I think it's almost the game plan was simple for them. Without any halfbacks, without any generals, without any playmakers. It's, and again, to use another Steveism, up the jumper. They didn't push the ball wide very often. They didn't get on the outside of us. They were always going to be up the middle. And it's an easy game plan, and it was forced upon them. However, I think they did it well. They battled well. And I think they massively improved when Brad Dwyer came on. I thought he, in terms of being a point of difference, I thought he was fantastic for them when he was on the field. Is an extra injection of pace, and a bit more direction, a bit more purpose on the ball that they didn't have before. And the 2 tries they got were, as I say, directly down to him, just being single-minded, chasing it like a dog chasing a ball in the park, just right all over it. Could not, if he'd been on 5 minutes earlier, we might have been in danger. And I think they worked hard. They played it simple, not a lot of craft. Kicking game was horrific from Leeds, so they have to say. And that possibly made a difference as well. But they'll possibly be pleased that they made it a lot more difficult for us than they perhaps thought, and perhaps the wider rugby league public thought. Although it's no consolation, they're out the cup. They'll take a bit of solace in performance, but when all said and done in the cup, it's results that matter. We do that another 3 times, we get a nice wee shiny cup.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you've mentioned Iggy Paasi as well, in the vein of Sia Soliol, Mori Fasavalu, Vila Matautia, coming on and almost like changing the game and giving us that go forward. But obviously the big talking point of the second half, the red card. What are your thoughts on it first?
Well, first of all, I hate to mention rugby union again, you'll be getting letters. But there's a lot more discipline and a lot more refereeing and punishment available for any contact with a head in union, because you see it a lot. Even like a few players carrying the ball, with an arm, like the old Nick Fozzard, carrying it like that into the opposition neck or throat or face. By the letter of the law, it was a late challenge. It was off his feet. It was a shoulder. It was direct to the head. That's for me a clear an absolutely obvious red card. It doesn't get picked up enough. I'm glad it was, because if it's a Saints player, I'm expecting that to be a red card, because there was a few late hits earlier, one in Theo, one in Johnny quite early, that weren't really high, but they were late, and it just shows you if you plan to hit the kicker kind of late, but make it look like an accident, you've got to go low, because it was, for me, an absolute nailed-on red card every day of the week.
Yeah, I'll read you a tweet from Leon Price, who said, some people think it was a red card, some don't. It's late, halfbacks need some protection. Yellow would have been fine with me, which, to be honest, I was doing the tweets today and I'd already written out sin bin. Gets a yellow card for a late hit on Farge, but he says, yellow would have been fine with me, but with all the potential head injury lawsuits to come over the next few years, red card for that sort of tackle may be something we see more of. Now, people don't want to sanitize the game. They want a game kind of a hybrid of all the athleticism and fitness we see now with the skill levels and the snap judgments, but they also want to see kind of the biff and big hits of the 70s, 80s and early 90s. We've got to have something in between, and we've got to protect players. So I think it was a red card. I'm quite happy if that was a Saints player, I would probably be expecting a red card, and that yellow would have been fine. But you can see these days that even though people don't want the game sanitising, when a referee has a decision like that to make, they're obviously going to go on the side of player welfare rather than just going for I'm sorry, this might spoil the kind of viewers' enjoyment at home. And it changed the game, but it didn't completely change the game, because as you say, Brad Dwyer came on, and whether Leeds missed a bit of a trick by not having him on at the same time as Cruz Lehman and having a couple of different pivots, they possibly did, because our tired bodies, playing so long for 15 minutes, as you say, one forward rolling all the time and Dodd coming on later on for Roby, them tired bodies allowed Leeds back in it. And to be fair to Leeds, they took the chances.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, just to kind of, I suppose, tidy up the situation with the high tackle that was red card, I was glad to see that he didn't put it on report, because it would have been zero benefit for Saints at that point. And I think referees are going to have to start doing that more regularly. As I say, we want to see the big hits, you want the collisions. But if you're going to lead with the shoulder, at least get it in about the kind of upper chest area or lower. You can still get a good big hit and knock someone back. Yeah. It's happening more in the other code, where ending with the head it's a red card, and that's it. So I think we need to, as you say, be cautious and a bit more leaning towards player welfare and long-term injury. I mentioned, I like what you said there about Leeming and Dwyer. If Leeds had put the two of them on together, it would have kept our defence tested as to who was going to be getting the ball as well. And I'm glad they didn't go down that route, because obviously we had a bit of a precarious lead as it was anyway. We were like a dog owner with slippy hands, you know what I mean? We were threatening to totally lose the lead there. Yeah. But thankfully we just managed to keep a grip of it. But if they had done that, and I think they were almost too cautious the last 15, if they'd done that, I think we could have been in a bit more trouble. But listen, we scored some great tries today as well. You look at the Wellsby out the back of the hand to Grace, Johnny's pass out to Reegs, and then Reegs' break that set up Tommy's try, which I think was, if you say a goalkeeper in football makes a camera save, that might have been a camera finish as well for the try.
Like a Springer Spaniel, just jumping up and over and down, didn't
he? He's been compared to many things. A Springer Spaniel.
That's a new one for him.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back there, you're leading me on perfectly for my questions to you here. You're on about the on-report decision and on-field decisions. Yeah. When it comes to a referee making a decision to go to the video ref, and we'll go with one of Brad Dwyer's and also one of James Roby's in the first half, they go up and they give a decision, and it's, I've got to try and I've got no try. But there's then no real correspondence. They don't talk through why they have got try and what they have seen and what they haven't seen. They just say, I've got a try, can you check? Now, again, this sounds like a rugby union loving, but you do watch a little bit of union and see how they use the TMOs.
Yes.
They completely talk through what they have seen. They have the decision of try yes or no, or is there any reason why I cannot award the try? Would you like to see something like that coming for rugby league? Because I don't see too much different in James Roby thinking he's grounded the ball. Not the one where the video ref says the separation, but James Roby eventually grounding the ball and the Brad Dwyer one. I don't see much difference for them. One's not referred and one is referred. Would you like to see something a little bit more, I don't know, like the words for it, it's almost something more in depth. And it's not just kind of a thought, oh, I'll just go to the video ref with this. I think it's a try.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're definitely going to get absolutely panned about talking about union again. But in fact, I was talking to my good friend Neil Connolly at full time, talking about like how it's in union. It's like there's communication between the on-field referee and the TMO, and for me, there's no reason why they can't do that in league, because when the referee sends it up to the video referee, he says, "I think I've got a try on field. Just check for grounding or whatever," and then it's totally up to the guy in the van or wherever he is. Now, for me, they should be, as they are in union, communicating, because I've seen it where the referee in union is given a try. He says, "Can you just check whether he's grounded that or whatever the dispute is?" And they're talking through it, and the says, "Well, yeah, I've had a look at that. I've given it up as a try, but I think he hasn't." And it's the on-field referee still makes the call himself or herself, and I feel that should be brought in rugby league as well, where they can actually communicate with each other. And sometimes if there's foul play off the ball, you hear in union the TMO saying there's been foul play, we'll go back and check that when after the next tackle. They can stop the game, and he can basically call an incident that's maybe been behind the referee's back, and a bit more interaction, because you say that the Roby early one, I mean, you're thinking, he's got that down, that, but then he didn't refer it, so it's a moot point. But the Brad Dwyer one probably was a try. I wouldn't really complain about it, but when you can look at the two instances, they've been refereed differently, and I think I think in general terms, certainly the video referee has to play more of a part, but the on-field referee, I think the communication between them when decision making is happening would be a big step forward. Absolutely.
Yeah. Back to Saints then. As we say, not the greatest game, not the greatest advertisement for our sport, I don't think, today. But with regards to us, we're making chances and we're defending really well, but we're just not slick at the moment, are we? I know we're only the third game into the season, but we're not slick. Are you confident that those chances will continue to be made, or is there anything that kind of worries you at the moment with how we're playing?
It's a little bit clunky. Certainly the first two games, our opposition wasn't the best, and perhaps we were getting a little bit excited in terms of, comfortable wins, not conceding many points. Leeds aren't the disaster they have been over the last couple of years. They are a better team. They are getting better, as they've shown today. We weren't quite on it, but I think we have to mitigate in the fact that you said yourself, it's Loughlin's first hit out of the season. Percival played the first game, and then Josh Sim was at centre. Wellesby's been full back a couple of times and moved to centre. I think once we get partnerships, particularly the spine, when you've got Coote, Faj, Lomax as your 1, 6, 7, and obviously Roby at 9. And I still remember get Morgan Knowles to come back in, who, as a loose forward, is as well as being abrasive, he's got great hands, and that gives you another element, another facet to the play. I think it's a work in progress. I think most teams are like that at the moment. No one's really properly hit their straps yet. Yeah. But looking at the players we've got, and the fact that we will be able to leave out top quality performers in the not too distant future, I think we're in a very, very healthy position. And I think Wakefield on Friday night should be, touchwood, comfortable victory. I've said that many times, but you would hope that we'll start to show the real Saints, in the coming weeks. Defence by and large has been good, apart from a couple of spells today where we fell off our usual standards and drop below it. But I think we'll be all right. We're certainly going to pick up. I haven't seen anything from any other team that's made me go, we could be in real trouble here. Your Wigans, to a lesser extent, your Leeds and Warringtons are going to be there or thereabouts. Hull, perhaps, might be a little bit better this year. We shall see. But I don't think anyone else is going to come remotely close to unseating, if you like, the top 5. Yeah. Catalan in the top 6, but I think that's possibly it. But no, I think we'll certainly get better. It's early days yet.
Good. Finally, Iggy Paasi obviously stood out. Anybody else you'd like to give raps to? Personally, I would go Joel Thompson. I think as a signing, he's kind of picked up where Zeb Tyre left off. He's still got to build them partnerships, as you say. He's new over here, but you can see that he will just keep going and going and going. As good on the field as he's been off the field. Anybody for you that kind of stood out other than Iggy today?
Yeah, Joel Thompson, I'll echo what you said there. He's an absolute workhorse, a different player, I think, and it was, comparing to Zeb Tyre, because Zeb had the beautiful hands. I mean, how many? 4, 5, 6 times I can think of tries where he's done that. I think a couple of times to Lomax. Quick pop pass inside to either Johnny or Lachlan for the try running through the gap. Be interested to see if Joel Thompson has those hands as well. We shall see. But in terms of abrasive carries and doing the simple things well, he's settled in perfectly. Obviously, Reeves, with his 2 tries, great finishes, and his run, which set up the match clincher for Tommy. Tommy was good as well. A couple of tries, some great goal kicks off the touchline, which, bearing in mind, up until the last couple of minutes, it was a tight game. The value of, I suppose, kicking the 2 penalties and a couple of touchline conversions was very, very obvious. We could have been level going into the last couple of minutes. One of those kicks hadn't gone over the post, so he was very good. Jack Wellsby, again, continues to impress in a different position. He didn't do a huge amount that was outstanding. Did it simple, did it well, but obviously his pass out to Reach was absolutely first class. Apart from that, everyone the forwards ran in pretty hard. A few handling errors across the board. Johnny, I thought, was tremendous. He usually is. That apart, everyone else did okay. Room for improvement, which I think is a good thing at this stage of the season. We're in the hat for the next round. I think the draw will be happening fairly soon, actually. And I think everyone should be frightened of Saints because we'll get through a tough cup tie and we've not played well. We can only get better. I think we're still the team to beat, but we've said that before in the cup. But
we have good points there about the forwards doing longer minutes as well, and still running hard. Peter, thank you for your time. Good to look back on that Saints victory over a dogged Leeds side and managed to put out a bit of a rough performance, but nonetheless we got through in the end, didn't we? And that's all that matters.
Correct.
I'm hoping Dave will be back for the preview show on Wednesday ahead of Wakefield. As he always says, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
Well done.
All the time. And thanks again, Peter, and we'll see you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.